So in this video I'm going to analyse why I think Xavi Simons could be the perfect Bruno Fernandes replacement, both statistically and from the eye test, analysing why his style of play and skill set could actually see him develop into a more evolved modern day playmaker than Bruno Fernandes is currently, but also why I think he'd suit playing on the right side of Ruben Amorim's front three more than Bryan Mbeumo, analysing his overall effect on the system as well as on Amad and Matheus Cunha in particular. So Xavi Simons' loan from PSG to RB Leipzig was made permanent at the end of January for a fee of £42 million plus add-ons. However, given that he only signed a 2.5-year deal until 2027, it seems clear that RB Leipzig would probably like to sell him on for profit this summer, considering next year he'd only have 1 year left on his contract. Leipzig have reportedly set the asking price at £62 million. However, given that I can't really see any of the other big teams pursuing Simons as a top target, I do think there's a real possibility that United could potentially pick him up for somewhere around the £60 million mark, maybe even as low as £55 million plus add-ons, because next summer Leipzig may struggle to even make a profit on the £42 million they pay PSG, and so they really don't have significant leverage. If Bruno was to leave for what I think should be around £120 million, given that City seem to be leading the race for Ray and Cherki, Alex Baena looks like he's going to Atletico Madrid, and Franco Mastantuono at £32 million is probably too much of a gamble for United to take this summer, Xavi Simons has to be someone you at least consider, and I'm going to show you why I rate him so highly in just a minute. But before I carry on with the analysis, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. They sent me over one of their retro shirts, this Manchester United 2006-2007 long sleeved home shirt with Ronaldo 7 on the back, which may be my favourite jersey of all time, with Ronaldo's performance that season making it even more iconic. They've also got other retro and current season jerseys available, and depending on where you live you can get 7 to 12 day delivery time. If you use code Atlantis at checkout you will get a discount for a limited time, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below. So from the eye test, what is evident about Xavi Simons is how technically astute he is, having a textbook technique, kind of a mix between James Maddison and Isco, but having the speed when stopping with the ball and using a feint or a drop of a shoulder to then accelerate away, that you would usually associate with a wide attacker rather than a central playmaker. For RB Leipzig he has played across the pitch, left, right and central, and so I think he'd be ideal for Ruben Amorim's 3-4-3, capable of being used from either side of the front three, but despite being someone who is comfortable when moving into wider areas, and also having the explosive dribbling ability, close ball control, quick footwork and fluidity when changing direction, he really isn't a high volume ball carrier or dribbler statistically, as his FBref report shows, and so whilst he certainly has this sort of capability in his locker, he isn't yet producing the output consistently. However, the main reason I'm looking at Xavi Simons as what essentially would be a Bryan Mbeumo alternative is because I think United need to replace Bruno Fernandes' playmaking if he was to be sold. But also, as I'm going to talk about in a video that may or may not already be out, if it is I'll leave it linked in the eye above, I think stylistically Amad and Mbeumo might clash a bit on the right side, with both players wanting to drift out into wider areas and receiving the ball on the outside of the opposition's fullback. Whereas if Ruben Amorim was to use Xavi Simons and Matheus Cunha as the two interior forwards either side of an advanced target man type of striker such as a Victor Gyökeres or maybe someone else like Alexander Sorloth, I think that front three provides a lot more balance for a number of different reasons, but primarily because Xavi Simons is a lot more effective in central areas compared with Mbeumo, which I think is essential as ideally Amorim needs two industrious athletic central midfielders in the double pivot rather than a playmaker, both of who are going to hold deeper positions between the opposition's midfield and front line when United have possession in the middle third. And so either you ask Mbeumo not to operate in wider areas as much, where he has been most effective for Brentford, due to his crossing ability and his progressive passing into the box when he cuts inside onto his left foot, and leave that up to Amad, or you allow Mbeumo to drift into these wider areas where he is most effective, which then forces Amad to either hold a deeper position on the flank, or instead you have him drifting infield with a diagonal run into the half space, now being positioned centrally between the lines, which really isn't where he wants to be receiving the ball either. Xavi Simons on the other hand is someone who is primarily not just going to sit central, but also going to look to move towards the ball, to receive it to feet, and taking the responsibility of replacing Bruno Fernandes' playmaking ability, which I think would work well with a double pivot of Ederson and Lamine Camara behind, Cunha to his left, Amad to his right, and also a centre forward like either Alexander Sorloth or Victor Gyökeres, holding a higher position between the two centre backs. Xavi Simons can be the player starting in the right-sided half space when Ruben Amorim's side take up that 3-2-5 shape in possession, adjacent to Cunha on the left, with Amad at right wing-back initially holding that deeper position on the flank that Amorim initially wants his wing-backs to hold in the middle third in order to open up a simple passing lane for the wide centre-backs when they receive the ball. But from here, Simons can be the player who, like Bruno Fernandes, can be given the freedom to roam across the pitch and also move into deeper central areas, popping up into pockets of space behind the opposition's midfield line to receive the ball, with Amad at right wing back then pushing forward into more of a winger-like position higher up the pitch, as Cunha on the left side now doesn't have the responsibility of dropping deep constantly in order to provide passing options through the centre, now having the freedom to pull wider if needed, or look to make runs ahead of the centre forward in order to break into goal-scoring positions himself. And Simons certainly has the playmaking ability to play this role, having a variety of different creative passes in his locker, from travellas with the outside of his boot to bend a through ball around a defender, a lofted curling pass to release a runner in behind, as well as a pinpoint incisive pass in order to split the opposition's midfield or defensive lines. The eye test shows that Simons does have this elite level creative passing. At the moment, however, his chance creating output per 90 over the last 365 days is a level below Bruno Fernandes's, ranking around the 75th to 80th percentile range for his XG assisted, expected assist and key passes, although given he's only just turned 22, he is on course to eventually start producing output in the 90th percentiles fairly soon. And to be fair, he's actually already at this percentile level for his passes into the penalty area, through balls and his long passes completed. And so whilst at this point in time he isn't quite at Bruno Fernandes' level in terms of chance creating output just yet, when it comes to his ability to create chances and progress the ball into dangerous positions, he is producing greater output in this regard than Mbeumo is. However, saying this, despite still looking very impressive statistically this season, I actually think Simons, just like Sesko, who I spoke about in a video the other day, has had his output suppressed somewhat this season due to RB Leipzig's poor campaign, which saw Marco Rose sacked at the end of March. See, Benjamin Sesko's non-penalty XG dropped around 30% from last season in the Bundesliga to this season, and when we look at Simons' Bundesliga and Champions League FBref reports from 23-24, you can actually see that the points I made about his ball carrying and chance creation output being maybe slightly lower than ideal may actually be partly down to the team he's playing in, as for his chance creation and progressive passing metrics in the Bundesliga last season, you can see that he was ranking around the low to mid 90th percentiles for nearly all of those metrics, with his XG assisted being significantly higher compared to where he ranked over the past 365 days, and even in the Champions League last season, despite obviously being slightly lower than in the Bundesliga, considering he wasn't playing for one of Europe's dominant clubs, you have to say he still looks incredibly impressive, and when you look at the possession section of his 23-24 FBref reports, you can start to see that his statistical output does actually align with how good he looks from the eye test, ranking around the 85th to 90th percentile range for both of his take-on metrics and progressive passes, as well as the top 1% for his carries into the final third, and even in the Champions League he was around the 85th to 90th percentile range for most of those metrics as well. And so when combining the stats over the past two seasons alongside the eye test, you can start to see that Xavi Simons is one of the most complete attacking midfielders not just in Germany but also the world, having the technical ability to operate in congested central areas, the playmaking ability to create via highly creative passes, whilst also having something that Bruno Fernandes doesn't, which is the burst of acceleration, pace, ball carrying and dribbling ability combined with his fluid body movements to be able to use feints and drops of the shoulder in order to be able to turn away from pressure in deeper parts of the pitch to then be able to drive the attack forward on his own, making him perfect for counter-attacks after a turnover, as well as artificial counter-attacks created during the build-up phase, wherefrom when he's approaching the opposition's half or final third, like Bruno Fernandes, he has the vision, timing and weight of pass to be one of the best creators in the Premier League, which alongside the trickery and flair that he possesses, in my opinion makes him perfect for one of those two interior forward roles in Ruben Amorim's front three, being a hybrid between an attacking midfielder and a winger, which is exactly the type of skill set that you need in those roles. However, what really leads me to put Simmons ahead of other potential targets like Mbeumo, Leao, Rodrigo, and is also making me think that he may have a similar level of potential to the likes of Cherki, Musiala and Wirtz, is that he's not just a creator but also someone who can contribute through goals as well. Whether it's running with the ball from deep before getting to the edge of the box and then bobbing and weaving and utilising quick shifts of the ball in order to open up a shooting angle before arrowing the ball low and hard into one of the bottom corners across the goalkeeper, or with power into one of the top corners, or even receiving a pass inside of the box, having the first touch to get the ball under control, before finishing subtly with an accurately placed shot with the inside of his foot, or a dinked finish past an on-running goalkeeper, alongside a first-time finish from the edge or just inside of the box after a cutback, Xavi Simmons is able to score from a variety of different positions and situations. Over the past 365 days, whilst he only ranks in the 42nd percentile for his non-penalty XG, he overperforms it by 0.15 per 90, scoring at a rate of 0.36 per 90, ranking in the 79th percentile when compared against all other attacking midfielders and wingers in Europe's top 5 leagues, which in terms of total output has seen him pick up 11 goals and 8 assists in 33 games in all competitions this season, whilst last season it was 10 goals and 15 assists in 43 games. We've seen him produce high quality in games against both Bayern Munich and Dortmund over the past 2 seasons, as well as at the Euros for the Netherlands as well. And so alongside the ability, he also has that match-winning quality that United would need in order to sufficiently replace what Bruno Fernandes brings to the side. So let me know who you would prefer, Xavi Simmons or Bryan Mbeumo, in the comment section below. And if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a 10% discount. I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below. And if you want to sign up to my Patreon to get access to the Instagram group chat or get a 7-day free trial to read some of my articles, I'll leave it linked on the end screen now as well.